It feels like I haven't seen you in like a year. We just didn't have one show yesterday. It was so weird when we were having NBA playoff shows every day. It's like, how's it going, man? How you doing over there?
It was a little weird,
Go
I
on.
mean, like, I don't know, it was a little different. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, we've been going like solid for like what, 3 weeks now?
Yeah, with every day that there's been NBA playoffs, just because the transition from round one to round two, there was a day where there were no game sevens. I think Saturday was kind of built in case there were any series that went to seven. We had some good first round series, but none of them ended up going seven. Early on, the underdogs sort of punched, but then the favorites punched back pretty heavily right afterwards. And we move on into round two today, Eric. We kick things off with a couple games, and we encourage everyone, they want to play along, head on over to BetUS. You can put in the exact website that we've got up for you, tinyurl.com/BTVBetUS. That'll get you 125% bonus on your first deposit. I've got a couple plays today. I think 3 in the first game, 1 in game 2. So we've got Bucks at Boston. We've got Warriors at Memphis. And to be honest, if you were to look around right now, most like people who were just to say, who do you think is the most likely NBA champ? They probably say the Warriors and one of the teams in this Milwaukee-Boston series. In fact, a lot of people are really high on Boston right now, Eric. And that's sort of one of my leans for one of my plays today, in that we've been talking about Boston for a while. I think this is a very good team. They are a very good defense. They've been awesome offensively. What they've been doing for a long time, it's not been a fluke, right? They've been doing what they did to Brooklyn throughout a lot of the regular season. The only problem is in both of these series today that we're going to, in both of these games, I don't know. I think one team comes out of a series. They were in an okay series. Boston, I really don't know what that Brooklyn was. Like, when I watch that Boston-Brooklyn series, to me, the more that I take out of that series is that Brooklyn didn't play well. Their body language was awful. They didn't look like they had any fight whatsoever. And the way that their personnel matches up with Boston's personnel, it's not good, Eric, because you think about the players that they are consistently throwing out and needing a lot of production from. Durant, very thin-framed. Kyrie, small. Seth Curry, smaller. Dragic, smaller. Patty Mills, smaller. Boston's way bigger than all of those guys. Not even just from like a height standpoint, right? KD's tall, but they're way thicker. They're way tougher. I do not like this matchup nearly as much for Boston. And I think in game one, Milwaukee comes in and reminds everybody, hey, they're still the defending champ. I know we don't have Middleton. It's going to be a little harder, but we do have this guy named Giannis, who still is a matchup problem for anyone on any team. I think the Bucks have a big shot to go in and steal game one today. I think they punch hard. I think this will be a good game, but 5 was the number that I was able to get on Milwaukee. That just feels way too high. This feels like it should be like a 2.5, 3-point game. I played Milwaukee plus the 5. I played Milwaukee plus the 170 on the money line. And you're a Bucks fan. Tell us what you're looking at in this game today.
Well, my big knock for Boston all year has been their size. I really feel like, hypothetically, let's say they had Andre Drummond. If they have Andre Drummond, I kind of like the Celtics here. But I just feel that at the end of the day, they just don't have the size to be able to compete with the Bucks. You look at it, let's say they put Williams on Giannis. They put they put Williams on Portis, Horford on Giannis. Who's guarding Lopez at the 5?
Lopez.
They don't have the size to match up, and the Bucks are running out that lineup with Lopez at the 5, Portis at the 4, Giannis at the 3. That's a big boy lineup.
You're going to throw Tatum and Brown, and if you try to throw Tatum and Brown at Giannis, right, that's going to take a lot out of them on the offensive end.
Exactly.
Cannot expect those guys to play 40 minutes of good defense against Giannis and then have everything that they need offensively to set the table.
Exactly. And then you just look at rebounding. The Bucks are the best rebounding team in the playoffs statistically by a large margin. And they were the 3rd best rebounding team in the NBA for the regular season. They're going to get a lot of second chance points. And the analogy is swimming with sharks. Someone may come out, or a better analogy is the UFC fight last night. The main event was Vera against Font. Font comes out, he's throwing all these punches. you look at Vera, his face is fine. Third round, Vera started throwing more punches, more kicks, started connecting more. You look at the end of it, Font's face is busted open. Vera's got nothing. And that's kind of what it's going to be like at the Bucks. The body shots and the overtime are just going to wear down this team just because they don't have the size to be able to combat against the Bucks, which leads me kind of into my first player prop in this game. I played Brook Lopez over 12.5 points.
Because he's the guy that's going to be a matchup problem, right? Because
exactly. Because
you're not focusing as much on him as you are on Giannis, right? Because if of those guys you mentioned, if I was doing it, and if you were doing it, like if we were coaching, you're going to make Brook Lopez beat you, right?
Exactly.
It's not Giannis.
Yeah.
You're going to make him hit those open shots.
Exactly. And if you look at it, people forget when Lopez came into the league, he was drafted as a low post scorer.
This guy was legit at Stanford. Yeah. He's the leading scorer for the Nets. Is he still, or he was for a while?
Yeah.
This guy is legitimately a post presence.
He was a back to the basket scorer, and then he morphed into a 3-point shooter. He got better defending the rim.
People don't give him enough credit. He changed his whole game. He went from never shooting threes at all. I mean, he was your old school, give me the ball down low, I can post you up. He's got great footwork. I mean, he used to kill USC when he played against him at Stanford, him and his brother up there. Oh, my gosh. He was so great offensively and so smooth. And I think people sort of forget that because he became a 3-point shooter. It wasn't – he did that in order to survive in a necessity thing because that's the way the NBA was going. The guy he still has it when you want to throw it down there to him. He's got that good footwork. He's going to be key in this series. I like that you're focusing in on him.
You look at him. So people tend to forget. You put him side by side with Joel Embiid. Who's bigger?
I know.
Lopez is bigger. Lopez weighs more.
Yeah.
Lopez is bigger than Joel Embiid. And
it's funny because he's sort of just hunched a little bit more. You know, he's a little older, so you don't think of him as like. But
people forget about that. And back to my thing, one game against the Celtics, only played 24 minutes, but he did score 15 points. Last 10 games, averaging 14. Last 5, averaging 13.2. I think they're going to run a little high-low, get low if they play the matchups how I think they're going to be, take advantage of Lopez in the low post. Or if they switch out and they have Williams start guarding him, Williams is going to come off to help. That's going to leave Lopez alone for some 3-pointers. So I love Lopez here. I think he's kind of the key to the series for them if they have to win. My other play in this game, look, I did Marcus Smart over 2.5 threes. I found it at plus 115. My thought process is for the season, the Bucks allowed the most 3-pointers per game to opposing point guards, 3.6 average. You look at the last game, Bulls really don't have a starting point guard. They kind of have a 3-headed monster of the kid from Illinois, Caruso, and Kobe White. Those guys had 73 attempts in 5 games, about 14.6, round up 15 attempts per game. And then you just look at Smart's production against the Bucks. He's averaging 8 attempts per game, shooting 40%, gone over the total dramatically in 2 of the 4 games. I think Smart's going to get a lot of open looks. Also with how the Bucks play. They play like Virginia does in college basketball.
Yep,
they
let
hog the middle. They leave the threes open. Smart's going to get a lot of open looks.
And he's going to take them, right? Yeah. He's not someone, if he misses 3, he's still going to take the 4th.
Yeah.
He doesn't mind. You know what I mean?
Shoots and everything. I love Smart here to go over the 2.5. So I actually have 4. I got the Bucks money line in the 5 too. So.
Yep. So Milwaukee at plus the 5, Milwaukee at plus 170 for me. We talk about no Middleton, but another thing, and Middleton's great. You guys don't win the NBA title probably last year without Middleton, right? Especially when Giannis got hurt. Middleton was incredible in that stretch when you needed him to step up. But then the day after you guys won, the Bucks won the title last year, Middleton and Booker and Drew get on a plane and they go and fly and play in the Olympics. Following that, they come back and they got to get ready for the season. They have really no offseason. They have a short turnaround. You play deep in and you come back. Middleton wasn't incredible this year. It wasn't like he was bad, but he wasn't quite as good as he has been in prior years because he looked like he was tired. He looked like his legs were just a little bit heavy. He carried a big load last year. I'm not saying your team is better without him or anything, but the guys who have been playing instead of him in the last few games were more Pat Connaughton and more Grayson Allen. And that's one of the props that I'm going to attack. Grayson Allen in games 3 through 5 versus the Bulls, he averaged 20.7 points per game. He hit 5, 6, and 3 threes in those 3 games. He shot 70% from 3 on 6.7 3-point attempts a game. 70% on over 6.5. That's nuts. And is that sustainable? Well, probably not. The only thing is, Eric, it's like what we were saying. If you're picking your poison and you're Boston, I mean, Grayson Allen is the guy that you're going to leave open. If you have to double Giannis or Drew Holiday, or there's a big body down low and it's Portis and it's Brook and you got to rotate over and Grayson Allen's open for 3, you're going to make him beat you. You know? And so for Grayson Allen, the shot selection that he has, he's never taking difficult shots. The shots that he is taking are so wide open shots that if he were to hit at like a 50% clip for a couple series, it wouldn't be weird. Any of these role players, if they were to make their threes, it's not crazy because we've seen this with teams that have good players. As a Laker fan, the reason why the Lakers won a couple years ago, KCP. It wasn't LeBron. It wasn't AD. They were both incredible throughout the run in the bubble. But look at how well KCP shot. Because when everybody doubles LeBron, when everybody doubles AD, someone's wide open, and all you got to do is have them hit that shot 40% of the time, right? You got to have them hit that shot when they're open, and that's what I'm hoping for Grayson Allen. I just don't know how good that Brooklyn team was, so give me the Bucks +5, Bucks +170 money line. Grayson Allen, his total over-under for points today was 10.5. I bumped, and that was at -120. So instead of laying the -120 juice, I bumped him to +15. I bumped him to 15, and that's +255 just for 2 extra baskets for him to get to 15 points. So Grayson Allen, 15 points or +255 for me.
Real quick, I mean, just to piggyback what you're saying, you just put the Bucks roster against the Nets roster. I mean, I know they have KD. I know they have Irving. After that, who are you going to take? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
they're just extremely top heavy with those 2 guys. Drummond was a non-factor. Claxton can't make 3 throws.
Nope.
Curry's too small. Brown, you know what? I'll give Brown credit. Brown had a great series.
He did. He played really well.
You know, and then you look at the bench, Blake Griffin. Aldridge
they had to dust Blake off because they couldn't get anything from anyone else. And for Blake, I'll give him credit. He tried that one game. You could tell he was giving everything he had. He just doesn't have the legs anymore. Physically, he can't do it.
It's just a better matchup. And like we talk about all the time, gambling's all about buying low, selling high. This Celtics team, everyone has them winning the ship right now just because they beat the Nets and everyone thought the Nets were all this in a bag of chips. I hate to break it to you guys.
They weren't.
With the way Giannis is playing right now, and him getting to the rim and him just being physical, he's able to do some stuff KD can't do. KD is a great shooter, great scorer, no doubt. But in terms of getting to the rim and being physical, he can't do that like Giannis can. So, you know, both of you and I like the Bucks here. So,
well, this is something that in talking with you the last few years, we talk football every week. We preview for the last 2 years. We've discussed and previewed every single football game in the regular season, in the playoffs, every one. And one thing that I've become much more as a gambler aware of and things that are more important to me when I'm handicapping football games are offensive lines and the trenches, right? That's something that most people, they don't think about. They look at your skill players or who's got the better quarterback or who's got the wide receivers, right? But it's the guys in the trenches. Boston was so much bigger, thicker, tougher. They had all those linemen they had that advantage against Brooklyn, right? They've got the guys who are going to punch you, who are going to hit you. Brooklyn had the more skilled guys, but they couldn't deal with the toughness. This matchup is totally different. They're going to be having to deal with trenches the whole time through. They're going to have a guy, Giannis, who's going right, not around them, not trying to shoot over them. He's going right through them.
Yeah, exactly.
That's way different, you know.
And I really feel like even if the Bucks don't win this game, I feel that there's going to be value on them to win the series just because those body blows over time
They're going to
with
wear you down.
Giannis, Portis, Lopez, even Holiday up in your face guarding you. Those are going to take a toll on you the more the series progresses. So even if the Bucks lose game 1, I'm going to be looking to take a series price of them. I didn't take a series price now, but if they lose game 1, I'll definitely
get a better one. Yeah,
price.
We'll get a better one. And I'm a Laker fan. I hate freaking Boston. I mean, from my rooting against teams, I love to root against them, right? Boston's fantastic. They are a very good basketball team. And if they were not matching up against the Bucks in this series, I think they probably have a pretty easy matchup with the other two teams, especially the other two teams being hurt right now, right? You look at the other side of the Eastern Conference, Joel Embiid isn't going to play in game 1. And Joel Embiid is in concussion protocol. And that was something that was Doc Rivers' fault. I was like, why is that guy in the game with 4 minutes?
Here's my thing that I thought it was too. And I'm lucky enough. I'm friends with the guy that used to coach in the NBA. He actually won Coach of the Year many years ago. Him and I were talking, and the statement he made to me was he would have still had Embiid in the game
until the timeout.
Until the other team took their starters out. And he said, and I mean, that was the thing. I mean, because I flat out asked him, and he was straight up with me. He said, he goes, honestly, with the situation, I would have had Embiid a little bit in. His bigger issue that he made to me was Embiid's lack of situational awareness. Why are you challenging that shot with how pivotal you are to the team?
I know.
Up 29. He goes, Embiid should have been aware. Just let it go, because it's not like it's a 2-point game. It's a 29-point game. And just let him have it. You have nothing to gain by challenging it. That was the point he made to me.
And when we talk about Embiid quite a bit, and you harp on this a lot, and you're absolutely right. This guy is very immature, and he really doesn't matter. Now, at this point, it doesn't really matter anymore, because I give him a lot of the benefit of the doubt for all of the things leading up to now and why he's not necessarily he hasn't been taught the best, right? Like, nobody's taken that guy and just said, look, here's what you got to do. Shut up. You're awesome. Go play basketball. When you win, smile and celebrate. Like, be Shaq, don't be a jackass, but be how Shaq was, right? That Shaq was able to be a guy that everybody liked. He was big. He was dominant, but he wasn't like Joel comes off sometimes like he comes off like a front runner, like when he's winning, things are great. When he's losing, he likes to chirp, or he'll complain at whoever on his team maybe didn't have a good game, or then he'll deflect to Doc, or he'll complain at the refs and stuff. And not that other star players don't complain, but he doesn't. The thing that I like about Joel, he hasn't done anything bad. He's not a killer. He's not he's not stole from anyone. He's not out there to sexually assault, right? He's not a bad person. He's just immature. He's he needs to be taught. And then I wish I could take LeBron or Chris Paul and just give them to Embiid for 1 year. 1 year. And be like, hey, just play with this guy every day for 1 year and learn how he carries himself off the court. You will be awesome afterwards. Because this guy's got an opportunity. He's got all of the tools, and he works. Like, we see him. He gets better at his three-point shot in the offseason. He gets better at his passing out of the double team. He gets better at his handles. He's not someone who's lazy and doesn't care. He needs a better head up here. He needs more focus, because that kind of stuff, I agree with you. That was like a Karl Anthony Towns play that he did.
Yeah, he just let Siakam score. It doesn't have any outcome on the game.
You're up 25 still.
I mean, Siakam's trying to score. It's not anyone that says he did it intentionally. Try driving to the hoop while driving to the hoop at full speed, hit your elbow at someone's eye. You know what I mean? Like, he wasn't intentional at all.
No, he's not trying to. It's one of those things where Siakam's trying to score. He knows the situation too. He's a little bit frustrated, so he's going to the hole extra hard. So like you said, if you're Embiid, don't put yourself in that position. Don't stick yourself in there. Like, I know when I walk home, if I come home and someone's mad, I walk away, right? It's like I can tell you come home and your partner or someone, they're in something happened at work, right? They're flustered. They got into it with their boss. I'm not going to go stick my nose in it and stir
Yeah.
the pot a little bit. I'm going to take a step back and let him cool off.
Yeah, you have to know what fights to pick.
Exactly.
And in my eyes, it was just a lack of situational awareness from Embiid. And there was nothing to gain from him challenging
if they go down, if they lose this series, that could end up being the reason why. I mean, that's going to be the reason why. It's going to be the reason why. And that could end up being the reason why this team doesn't win a title again, because you never think about it, but then you look at the lay of the land, right? You look around and, okay, Miami isn't that healthy right now. So if Philly came into this series with the healthy Embiid and you don't know what's up with Butler, you don't know really what's up with Lowry, Philly would be in a pretty good spot. And you've got the Bucks and the Celtics, who are probably going to bang at each other for 6 or 7 games and probably, be a little bit depleted by the time they get to the next series. Philly is in a pretty good spot. They might have just thrown it all away this year by no Embiid, because, I mean, unless – and we'll talk about this game when we do – I'm probably going to lean Philly in game 1 just with the line, because nobody's going to want to play them, right? Everybody's going to – it's
8 right now. It will climb up. I mean, you just got to see like how it moves and everything. We don't know what's going on with Lowry. Got to assume Butler's going to be back. Miami's got their little injury concerns on their own, but a bigger issue is he's got no backup. And let's face it, we all harp on
DeAndre Jordan.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we all hop on Anthony Davis for him like missing games. Embiid misses games too. You have to have someone there. You had Drummond there, who I'm not saying Drummond's all that in a bag of chips, but he performed serviceable when Embiid was out.
Absolutely.
And you elected to trade him in the Harden package. I'm just saying it. I said it before. How much better would the 76ers team be right now? They'd probably still have Curry.
Yep.
And they probably could have got a player back if they would have went with the CJ trade instead.
Yeah.
If they had CJ here, I would probably still like him to win the series just because of what CJ brings to the table. But now you got Harden and his history. Wojo just tweeted out Embiid's not traveling for games 1 and 2. So, yeah, Philly's more than likely is going to have their back against the wall for game 3.
Now, it's funny because Harden has made it, and we're talking a little about the series tomorrow, but we'll get into the next game in just a second, all NBA encompassing. If you have any questions, if you have any bets you want to share with us about the Bucks Celtics we just talked about, and then we're going to get into Warriors Grizzlies in just a second. This is a big, this is a big moment for Harden to have a chance to kind of flip the narrative a little bit. Like he has an opportunity here. This is what great players strive for, the chance to be in a situation like this when everybody's looking at you going, Harden's done. Remember how he kind of choked away some of those playoff series? But if he comes in here in games 1 and 2 and has some of those old James Harden games, if he's able to just get a split out of this without Embiid, they will feel like that's a massive win to go back to Philly, tied 1-1. If for some reason they go in and win a couple games and he's able to help them win this series without Embiid throughout a lot of it, that's something that, even though he wouldn't be winning a title, that is a narrative-changing flip, right? If Harden's the guy that comes in against a pretty tough Miami team without Embiid, those are the things that we want our superstars to do that we just don't know if James Harden has done because we haven't seen him do it, right? We haven't seen him do it in the times that matter. We've seen other players step up when guys have gone down and carry the load. And for a game or 2 games or a series, can James Harden do it when we see Philly and Miami play? We'll be talking about that game. We'll preview it. We'll dive into everything right here on BTV Bets. Let's get into game 2 today, Eric. And in both of these series, I just want to ask the same question to the teams that are favored in game 1s. How good was Denver? Golden State's coming out of this series where they looked really good, especially the first couple games. Everything was going awesome for them. They were flying around all over the place. Jordan Poole scoring 30 points. But then we see he comes back to life a little bit, right? And he's not scoring 30. Things got a little bit more difficult for them. And though there were a couple games in this series that were very, very close and could have gone either way, it's playing the same game we played with the Boston Brooklyn, with Brooklyn, take Jokic off of that Denver team. Who else would you even feel confident with on that court?
Nobody.
Honestly, Aaron Gordon is your number 2 option, and Monte Morris. That was their next.
Don't forget about my boy Will the Thrill, man.
Will the Thrill, and he even got hurt towards the end.
Yeah.
So I don't want to just completely overreact to a couple of these teams who I think may have come out of series that they played teams in great, like Brooklyn was reeling. They were done. They didn't fight back at all. Poor Denver. I don't know how this team was even in that spot with Jokic. If you just look at their roster, it's because Jokic is so incredible and he's such a matchup problem and he makes everybody else so much better and he gets them all wide open looks. And, so you got Golden State coming out of that series where everybody's like, wow, they crushed this Denver team, who Denver was not very good. I think Denver was probably, and honestly, of the 8 teams in the playoffs on the West, I think they were the worst. The Pelicans in a series, I would have taken them. We saw the Pelicans put up a pretty good fight against the Suns. Now you go and play this Memphis team, and the perception right now of Memphis is the opposite. Everybody's kind of disappointed in Memphis. They sort of feel like, wow, Memphis didn't play very well in that series. They kind of, they could have lost a couple more of those games. This is the time to play Memphis. It's at 2.5 right now. Might jump up to 3. You can get Memphis on the money line at plus 120. I don't think Denver was that good. I actually think Minnesota is pretty good. They're young and they're kind of dumb with the way that they play, but they're pretty talented. Like, they've got a deep roster of guys that even will come off the bench and perform. Hell, my guy McLaughlin from USC, he came in and gave them some really good minutes. He was playing smart basketball. He was making good passes. He was making great plays. And you flip the Minnesota roster up right next to the Denver roster, and they're like night and day. If we were drafting those 2 rosters, I'd draft Jokic, and then the next 6 players I'd pick would probably be off the T-Wolves. Like between the Timberwolves, and the Nuggets. So yep. I think this is a spot where Memphis, they were in a weird role, Eric, because they were the favorite in that last series. They're not used to that. They like this role, being the feisty underdog that nobody thinks is going to win. They can punch you. They can rebound. They can run up and down. I think Golden State's not going to quite be ready for the pace that this team plays at after playing a Denver team that's got Jokic leading the way, right? And this team's got Ja leading the way. I locked in Memphis on the money line plus 120 today. I don't know if they win the series, but I think in game 1, they kind of surprise Golden State. They punch them, and then we have that counter back and forth throughout the series.
Well, little trivia time with old Uncle Eric here. Who allowed the 7th most second chance points per game in the NBA this regular season?
Well, I'm going to say that's the Golden State Warriors.
Who scored the 3rd most second chance points this year in the NBA?
I'm going to say that's the Memphis Grizzlies.
Which team led the NBA in offensive rebounding?
That is the Memphis Grizzlies. I know that for a fact.
Correct in all of them.
Yeah. Look at me. Sign me up.
Shout out to Kyle. Kyle kind of said this a couple days ago. I think it was before, I don't know, game 5, game 6. How this matchup for the Warriors, not really the best just because of what Memphis can do on the rebounding end.
Exactly.
And it's at 2.5 right now. I'm hoping for a 3. I looked at the splits before record. There was, what was it? It was 85% of the bets were on the Warriors.
Yeah.
But less than 60% of the money.
That's the big sharp money on Memphis. That's when you take notice. Yeah. It's the backwards line movement, right? Yeah. When the percentage goes one way, but the line doesn't move very much at all.
Yep. So I'm hoping for the 3. I'm holding that out right now. But I'm definitely going to be on them. I may lock it in at 2.5 just right now, just in case more sharp money comes in. And there's going to be a turn. There's been 4 public short dogs in a row that have won and covered.
Yep.
So there's going to be a turn where, one of these road teams that isn't chalk. Excuse me, one of these home teams that isn't chalk with a small spread is going to be covering.
Yep.
I think it's the Grizzlies today. I'm gonna, like I said, I'll take the 2.5 or the 3. I'll kind of wait to get my best number, and then I have one player prop in here, and it kind of piggybacks what I said about the Warriors and their rebounding issues. Jaren Jackson's rebounding prop, it's all the way down to 6.5.
I know.
Last series against the Wolves, he averaged 7.2 rebounds per game, and believe it or
Even
not,
with all the foul trouble.
yeah, and the Wolves are a way better rebounding team than the Warriors. I think he'll be able to get on this glass. You get on the glass against this Warriors team. He's averaging 8 rebounds per game in the 3 games he played against the Warriors. I'm just going to attack that. And even if the Warriors do play the small ball lineup, Jackson's athletic enough where he is going to be on the court because he will be feasible in that pick and roll. He can stay with Green. He can stay with Curry. So he's not going to be off the court. The only worry is, and I hope he figured it out because, he was able to stay on the court last game, is the foul trouble. As long as he's on the court and doesn't commit stupid fouls, he's going to hit this prop and go over the 7.
I love when a player like him gets this opportunity now too, right? I was talking about with Harden as a great player getting an opportunity. Jaren Jackson is someone, if they would have lost that first round series, everybody would have looked at him and said,
the narrative would be different right now.
You weren't the player that you were all year long to help us get here. We were the number 2 seed. A lot of the reason because of you couldn't stay on the court. And that's how those narratives get started, right? If they would have lost, then all of a sudden we start talking about Jaren Jackson Jr. like he's not a playoff player, or can you win with this guy, or can he be a major focal point? Now, in a weird way, all that's wiped away. He gets a nice clean slate to start, because today, if he goes out there and he scores 15 and has 10 rebounds and they win, nobody's going to care about what happened in the series that they got through. It's all about moving forward. This exact same thing happened to Fred VanVleet a few years ago. Go back and look. His first playoff series, he couldn't stay on the court. He was benched. And then he got the opportunity late in other games, and he was awesome, and he just became this great playoff player. Shout out to Mr. Mize. Says, I want to say I love what you guys are doing. I see Eric's Draymond Green over 0.5 threes is at even money. What do you think today on that one, Eric?
Oh, my God. You know what? It's tempting, and it was the last play that I cut off. I mean, he's getting 3 points. Look, he's going to get 3-point shots. He's going to be open on the top of the key. It just missed the cut. That was the last play I cut. So if I had a deeper card, I would do it, but I don't like going over 6 plays. You know what I mean? I don't want to expose myself.
It's the first game in these series too, which is a little bit, right? It's sort of a feeling out process. You want to kind of see what happens. At least for me, I mean, we do this, like we do predictable stuff. We do previews of stuff, but I myself as a handicapper, I am much better being able to review material, right? Looking at what happened, being able to analyze the data, watch the game, look at the numbers, and then get an idea of how I feel what's going to happen the next way. I'm not quite as good when there isn't a sample size of something to watch, because it's a little bit harder. You got to just sort of, I like to be able to see what happens, and then I can kind of really form an opinion over it myself.
And one thing with this Draymond, with Draymond Green in this series is, and I talked about on Gino's podcast, is Jackson and Tillman, they run with him all summer at Michigan State. So they're going to be used to what he does, and I kind of want to see that unfold. I mean, he went over it every single game except for game 4 against Denver. It's tempting, but I want to see the first game play. I would still take it though at even money. Like I said, why not? I'd still take it at even money.
Okay, so I am we gotta do this for each of today's games. I'm gonna give you a first basket scorer, just to play a small one. Just so if anyone out there wants to have some fun, toss in a few bucks on something silly. Game 1 today, Bucks, Boston. Eric, I'm gonna ride with you. Plus 750. Brook Lopez, first basket. I could absolutely see a pick and pop, Brook Lopez for 3. I could absolutely see a throw down low to Brook just to try to get him established. I'm going Brook Lopez, first bucket, plus 750.
Man, we're gonna have to start talking pre-show, because that was mine, man.
It's got, well, because I like your handicap with Brook, and I think that makes a lot of sense. That's someone that you want to establish early. And so that's a good number.
I'm going to be on, you know what, just to be different, but Lopez is the one I bet on. I'll go with Portis plus 900.
I like that too. Yeah.
I'll go with Portis plus 900 in the Warriors game. You know what? I'm going to just go back to, I'm going to go Desmond Bane. You know, it's kind of weird. Like, he's kind of established himself as their primary scorer.
He has, because he's playing a lot more minutes right now, but his efficiency is still the same. He's shooting more and he's making more shots, but he's playing 10 more minutes. So he's just getting a lot more usage. And you're right. This role is starting to develop, or these roles where Ja's a little bit more of the facilitator and he's a little bit more of that primary bucket getter.
Yeah. So I'm going to go with Bane. I'm going to go Bane plus 700 first basket. And you know what? I'm going to go Portis. Those are my two today.
Bane and Portis. I'm going Lopez in the first. And you know what? Like, Ja is plus 1,000.
Oh, wow.
Like, that's pretty crazy. You know, Ja is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9th choice.
He's the same as
Xavier Tillman. Ja, like, just off of that, how? Yeah. You know what I mean? If the ball's in his hand early. So I'm going Ja plus 1,000 to score the first bucket. We'll try to remember to have one of these each day, because we'll only have.
I feel the pressure's on because I'm 2 for 2 with my talent.
I know. You nailed one. And I wasn't watching live yesterday, but you texted me Towns, and I said, "Uh-oh, did he do something?" I was like,
it's kind of funny. That was like your first reaction.
My first, and I was like, "What did he do stupid? Did he get himself into 3 fouls early?" You're like, "No, he actually hit my first basket." I was like, "Oh, cool."
So hopefully we can keep these trucking. So
that's great.
We'll see.
That's great. Mr. Mize, thank you for checking in with us. Thanks everyone for watching and hanging out with us again. I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your Sunday. Before we get out of here, a couple things that I just want to mention. If you head on over to oldsmokeclothing.com/BTV, you can take a look at a shirt that we have there. It says, "I don't bet, I win." It's a collaboration that we have with Old Smoke Clothing. And if you use the promo code Gino, it's going to get you free shipping on your order. Help us out. Show a little support for us. That's a very nice gesture for us with some of our partners and our sponsors. Eric, buddy, great stuff as always. I will see you tomorrow. We'll be back here at 6:00 p.m. Eastern time, 3 p.m. Pacific time. We have 2 games on the Monday slate. Philly at Miami. Philly's going to go and play Miami for a couple games without Joel Embiid. Let's see if they can try to steal one and even things up heading back home. Dallas at Phoenix will open up that series on Monday also. Good luck today, buddy. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Hope everyone has a great rest of your Sunday. We'll see you back here tomorrow, Monday, for more NBA at 6:00 p.m.